Have you ever sat in your room after a long day of thinking and just started to let your mind take over? Look out your window, wall, or ceiling and just start to question everything that ever existed? Then all the philosophical questions start to come to mind. Who created the universe? Why does religion exist? And one of my personal favorites, why do we actually exist? Humans are one of the most curious creatures on Earth, but why? Hi, I'm Philosophy Division, and this is my philosophical channel where I share my thoughts to the world and see if I'm not the only person that thinks like myself. Let's get into today's topic. Why do we exist? Why humans ask this question? The reason why you might come across this question in your life is because humans are curious. We have multiple reasons on why we question why we exist. For starters, we all know we're alive. Our hearts beat over 100,000 times a day. We breathe in oxygen from our planet. But we all know we will all die sooner or later in life. Humans, like myself, understand that life is temporary. But once we realize we'll eventually die one day, we start to naturally ponder these questions. Why am I here? Is there a purpose to all of this? Does my life mean anything? These questions often are similar to the main topic of today. Awareness of mortality often leads people to search for a purpose, and that's the real nature of humans. The second reason why we humans question this topic is because we search for meaning in life. People naturally look for patterns and explanations. We ask why about almost everything. Questions like, why is the sky blue? Why do we suffer? Why do we love? Questions like these come to our minds because we want to understand the world and are fundamentally part of human curiosity. The last third reason why I think humans often question this topic is because the universe is enormous. When people look at the stars or think about the age and size of the universe, it's easy to feel both amazed and like a grain of sand on a beach full of grains of other sand. Did you know there are actually more stars in the universe than grains of sand on a beach? This goes to show that this is how big the universe actually is. The sense of wonder often inspires questions like this one. Out of everything that exists, why are we here at all? All of these questions I have spoken of all have something to do with today's topic. Why do we exist? Ancient philosophy. In the ancient Greek time, there were lots of famous seekers that wanted to seek knowledge and achieve our ultimate purpose. The most popular three, Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato, are one of my favorite philosophers and thinkers, and I think their ideas were ahead of their time. Socrates believed that the primary source of our existence is to examine our lives and pursue self-knowledge. He famously argued that the unexamined life is not worth living. For Socrates, existing as a human means we constantly question our assumptions, seek wisdom, and master our own desires and ignorance to live a healthy lifestyle. Plato, building on his mentor's ideas, taught that the physical world we can see and touch is just an imperfect shadow of a higher spiritual reality. He argued that our souls exist to break free from the illusions of the material world and align ourselves with ultimate concepts like justice, beauty, and goodness. The goal of existence is to achieve the good life through virtue and intellectual enlightenment. Aristotle took more of a practical, empirical approach. He believed that everything in nature has a purpose. We exist to fulfill our specific human function, which is to use our unique capacity for a reason and develop moral virtues by finding the balance between extremes. Ultimately, while they differed on the mechanics of the universe, all three of these philosophers agreed that human existence is meant to be an active pursuit of wisdom, virtue, and purpose. Religious perspectives. Diving into religious perspectives about how different religions think about the topic, why do we exist? And I apologize in advance if your religion is on my list. I only picked the most popular 5 religions that most people know. Islam. Muslims believe humans were created with free will and intellect to know Allah, worship Him, and fulfill their duties as stewards on earth. The Al-Islam collection discusses how life is a test, meant to help individuals reach spiritual peaks through submission to divine commandments and seeking His mercy. Christianity. The primary source of human existence is to glorify God and enjoy a loving relationship with Him and be transformed into the image of Jesus Christ. Many articles across the internet expand on what Christianity thinks about the topic and explains that human life is designed to reflect the glory and majesty of the Creator. Hinduism. The purpose of life revolves around the four goals of human life: dharma, ethics and duties; artha, prosperity; kama, desires and passions; and finally moksha, spiritual liberation from the cycle of rebirth. Judaism. Existence is viewed as a partnership with the divine. Followers believe humans were created in the image of God to act as his partners in making the world a better, more holy place, driven by the belief that God has ultimate faith in human fallibility and capacity for good. And finally, Buddhism. From a Buddhist perspective, the philosophical inquiry into why we exist is often considered moot because there is no permanent independent self. Instead of seeking a cosmic why, practitioners focus on understanding the nature of reality and practicing Dharma to achieve enlightenment. My own family is Christian, although I am not. I am an agnostic, meaning I think that higher power is unknown, and I prefer to question and explore rather than fully commit to belief or disbelief. I do sometimes question whether God is real or not real, but I have no decision on what to think. As Dexter said, I am Switzerland. Switching over to the scientific perspective and how they think of the topic, why do we exist? From a scientific standpoint, our existence is not driven by inherent grand purpose. Instead, it is the remarkable outcome of physical forces, a microscopic imbalance in the early universe, and billions of years of adaptation and natural selection. Cosmological necessity. At a fundamental level, the universe's existence traces back to the Big Bang. An infinitesimally small asymmetry in the early universe allowed matter to slightly outnumber antimatter, preventing total annihilation and leaving behind the physical building blocks for stars, planets, and life. Evolutionary biology. Biologically, the sole reason for our existence is survival and reproduction. Through genetic mutation and natural selection, organisms better adapted to their environments survived to pass on their traits. From this perspective, we exist simply because our ancestors were successful in the trials of nature over millions of years. And last but certainly not least, the survival fallacy. Astronomically, the probability of the specific chain of events leading to the human consciousness is near impossible. Scientists often prove to survival bias. Because we are here to ask the question, we are observing a highly improbable fluke occurrence. Ultimately, science suggests that while our origin is a mechanical product of nature, the meaning of our existence is not prescribed by the cosmos. Instead, our unique capacity for consciousness, imagination, and our self-awareness allows us to actively construct our own purpose. After all this information I gave to you and spoke about, I want you to think about this specific situation. Imagine you found an ordinary stone on the ground. Maybe to you, it would just be a plain and simple rock. To a geologist, it tells millions of years of Earth's history. To a child, it's something to skip across a lake. To an artist, it's inspiration. Notice how the stone itself never changed, only the meaning people gave it changed. Do you think our lives could all be the same? Maybe meaning isn't something we discover. Maybe it's something we create. My personal opinion on today's topic, why do we exist, is that I think the reason why we exist is to create something with our minds and speak to strangers about what we think about different things. Whether it's science, politics, or dumb subjects, I think humans were made to be put on Earth and create art, connect with other humans, and question the reality of our existence, just like philosophers Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. The question I'm leaving you to figure out yourself is, if you could know the answer to why humans exist, would it actually change the way you live tomorrow? Thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope I left a message in your mind to think about for the day.